Should you force quit all your apps? Will a Mac charger fry your iPhone? And should you put your iPhone in a bag of rice if it gets wet? You've probably heard all of these before, but do you know if they're actually true? Let's bust some iPhone myths. Starting off with arguably the most controversial, should you be force quitting your apps? This one has been around a while. The premise is that you'll extend your battery life and increase performance on your iPhone by force quitting all of your apps. I'm going to throw my wife under the bus a little here. Faith is constantly force quitting all of her apps. She acknowledges that it's probably not the best practice, but to her, it's habitual. She just can't stop doing it, like chewing on your nails. But the reality is, there is no need to force quit apps. This has been widely debunked. I did an entire video on it here that you can check out, but Apple itself has come out telling people not to do this. The short version of this is, when apps are in the background and or in the suspended state, they are not taxing your processor or using your battery life in a meaningful way. In fact, it actually consumes more battery life to constantly have to reopen apps from a closed state than restoring them from their suspended state. It's also even less user-friendly because it increases the loading times. Only quit apps when they are not performing as expected, or you're very worried about data that they are collecting or sending. Constantly closing apps is just not going to help your battery life. Another myth that I continue to see is that if you get your iPhone wet, you should immediately put it into a bag of rice. This is wrong for two reasons. The first is that modern iPhones already have a good degree of water resistance built in. They're IP68 rated, which means they can be submerged in 6 meters of water for up to 30 minutes before they take on any damage. If you have a newer iPhone and it falls in the pool or, dear God, the toilet, it's going to be just fine. Though I would suggest sanitizing it if it was the latter of the two. Let me know down below in the comments if you've ever dropped your iPhone into a place that you did not want to fish it out from. But say you've got an older iPhone that doesn't support the same level of water resistance. You still shouldn't go the old rice route. The trick is supposed to work because rice can absorb multitudes of its weight in liquid. You put your waterlogged device in and the rice will pull out this moisture, preventing your phone from incurring further damage. But that never really happens. It can't pull nearly enough moisture to actually make a difference. If you really want to give something a try, you should take your iPhone or other device and immediately turn it off. Then put it into a sealed bag with a bunch of desiccant packets. These are those little silica pieces that you find in product boxes that are specifically designed to pull out moisture. They are much more effective, but also do not eat them. Just putting that out there. Here's a hot topic. Does Apple slow down older devices to push new ones? Is this a shining example of planned obsolescence? This is something that I see all the time, including in the comments of my videos. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Most of it stems from a lawsuit in 2020 in which Apple agreed to pay out a total of $113 million to affected users. The truth is a bit more complicated though. See, batteries aren't perfect carriers of energy, and as time goes on and they're continuously charged and discharged, they take damage. And this causes the maximum capacity to decrease. This is all normal and expected. But back when we didn't have a battery health page to look at, in fact, this lawsuit is why we eventually got one, and as a result, a lot of user complaints started popping up saying, why is my iPhone dying at 30%, and other unreported battery damage. Consumers just didn't understand how lithium-ion batteries worked. Apple understood though, and their fix was to look at the health of your battery, then silently and automatically slow down your phone when it was under heavy load if it wasn't doing great. This helps reduce any damage from heat, and over a long period of time reduces the number of charge cycles, all of which is great to keep those batteries healthy and long-living. It wasn't planned obsolescence like people like to say, and a battery swap would have always restored full performance to the phone. It was Apple making a good faith attempt at increasing the lifespan of the phones. It just wasn't transparent enough about how it did it. After the lawsuit, Apple made what it was doing more clear by putting a toggle in settings that would optimize performance, and eventually added the battery health information I mentioned before. Speaking of batteries, will charging your phone overnight kill your iPhone battery? This is another one that I hear all the time that wasn't always wrong. What used to happen with electronics is that you would plug them in, they would reach 100%, and they would continuously be topped off at little bits throughout the night. This was unnecessary and put more strain on the battery. To help, Apple instituted a feature called optimized charging, where the phone will only charge to 80% and then stop. Just before you wake, it'll top off your phone to 100%, greatly reducing the time it sits at full capacity. It's able to look locally on your phone at the alarm and your usage history to know when you're going to need your phone ready to go the next morning. Recently, Apple added another new feature to help battery life for iPhone 15 users. It can limit your iPhone from going past 80% entirely. It's intended for those who are dead set on protecting their battery health and aren't heavy daily users. The trade-off is you'll have to charge your iPhone a bit more frequently. To sum it up, this used to be a bigger issue, but thanks to advancements in software and charging technology, it's basically a moot point. Finally, one more battery-related myth. Will using a bigger charger damage your iPhone's battery? The answer here also lies in Apple software and the USB spec itself. When you connect your phone, a whole handshake process happens, where the port and the cord talk to each other. The cord says, I can provide up to 100 watts of power, while your phone's saying, that's great, I can only take like 35. Plugging your iPhone into a higher wattage brick will never damage it, assuming you're using reputable cables and chargers, of course. So which of these myths are you guilty of believing? And are there any other myths that you have heard? Let me know down below in the comments, and I will answer them in a follow-up video. Be sure you are subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss that.